Today, I had the chance to interview Ethan Henry, the writer and director of the upcoming movie Severance Mountain. The movie follows two friends who reunite on a camping trip after suffering a tragic loss. Unfortunately for them, several bodies are discovered by police during their hike, and they realize their tragedy is just beginning. This movie looks awesome, and the studios agreed to do a giveaway in this video. So if you'd like a chance to win a piece of their merch, comment hashtag I survive Severance Mountain down below and you'll be entered in the raffle. And just so you know, this is not an advertisement. This project is just really cool, and I'm excited for this movie. So I am super hyped that I got to talk to this guy. So I hope you guys enjoy.
My name is Ethan Henry. I'm a filmmaker, musician out of Northern New York. I've been in a professional band called Freya for the last 20 years. I own a tattoo shop as well, which is actually how I can finance all these crazy art projects. And one of them being filmmaking. You know, it's an expensive kind of thing. But I love stories. I love sci-fi. I'm really not a full-blown horror guy. Like I write sci-fi with a horror twist typically. I think sci-fi, aliens, that type of stuff is terrifying, and that is a horror movie to me. I'm an independent filmmaker who loves the challenge of trying to make it work and trying to tell a story that you can watch and enjoy.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I like the idea of aliens too. So I think that is the scariest thing as well. Because you got ghosts, demons, whatever, they throw in scary movies, and they always seem kind of too grounded, All you need is some holy water or to move to a different house. But anytime it's aliens, it's what can you do,
Well, it's funny you say that. So I just want to bring this up to you. I just saw a podcast or someone talking about this, and you've seen Signs. And I
Right,
don't know
right.
if you've ever, and if you've watched it like me, I always thought it was like an alien movie. Well, someone just recently kind of put in my ear that they said that's a movie about demons. And you should look it up. I can't remember who said it, some podcaster, but they talked about how the whole movie references religious stuff and holy water and angels and demons. And when they ran through, I was like, wow. It depends on what lens you're looking through. So it's either an alien movie or a movie about religion and demons. But it was really cool. And to me, I love the idea of that. I think aliens could be demons, and I think that whole thing is terrifying. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think so too.
talking about
It's
this stuff.
actually it's really funny you bring that up. So I saw Signs. My grandparents showed it to me, and they were devout Catholics when I was a kid, and they showed it to me telling me it was a movie about religion and that even aliens could be defeated if you went to church. Not the message I
That's
got
funny.
out of it, but that's the lens I watched it through the first time. So it's funny you bring that up. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so
great.
about your movie though. So can you give me a non-spoiler summary of the movie? I mean, it's not out, so obviously you're not going to spoil it.
So the trailer is cool, and I like the fact that people are enjoying it because when we made this trailer, I wanted it. So I do all my editing. I wrote the original script, and then I rewrote it with a friend of mine, Melissa Hunt, and then the movie kind of followed. And when I made the trailer, I didn't want to reveal a lot. When you watch a movie and you see all these great things, or you watch a trailer, you see all these great things, and when you watch the movie you're just waiting for that scene or that is the big scene and they gave it to you. I didn't want to do that. So the fact that people are enjoying the trailer is really cool. So that being said, there are things I don't want to reveal. So the story about that takes place in the Adirondacks about a couple. They're not together. This guy, his girlfriend had passed away, and he was just really distraught over it. He had a mutual friend who lived in another city, and she was friends with this girl, and they decide to kind of reconnect and go up on this camping trip to kind of just talk through it. And who knows, they're both struggling in love, and his girlfriend died and she's just a workaholic. And so they go up to Severance Mountain to go on this camping trip to reconnect. And during that time, the local police have been like finding dead bodies and all this stuff. And, the chief is kind of like, well, these are inexperienced hikers and people on trails they shouldn't be walking. And basically, um, animals are attacking them. Like those videos when you see people going to national parks, walking up to the buffalo, you're like, what are you doing?
Right.
Stay in your car. I imagine that's his mentality. So, but this one officer feels like, no, there's something else going on. She thinks there might be a killer in the woods or something's happening. And so they write it off. And her whole thing is she's kind of pursuing this idea while these two go up to the woods. And so when they get up there, it just kind of all unfolds. And Severance Mountain, there is a threat on Severance Mountain, and it's kind of the reveal is part of the cool part of the film. I think we did a couple reshoots and re-edits, so it was a really great twist at one point. And now I don't know if it's as catches you off guard as it might have, but it kind of it's just about this couple going up there and the struggle to like basically survive and find their way off the mountain with an evil lurking in the woods.
That is the perfect answer. So I was actually mad when somebody asked this question because I hate when trailers or before you watch a movie, you find out what it's about. Uh, and that sounds really cool. That's my favorite kind of horror concept when you know something bad is happening, but you don't know what it is. So that actually is the perfect segue into the next question. So a lot of horror movies for me and a lot of people I talk to kind of lose their scare factor when they get too deep into kind of their own lore or the writing explanations. So, how do you avoid that and kind of keep the fear of the unknown long enough to keep kind of the audience engaged and scared of what they're watching, if that makes sense?
Well, I mean, for me, not really wanting to write a horror movie where there's some supernatural thing that things that I think are real are more scary than things that are. It's kind of like standing on the edge of a cliff. Like you can watch it on the TV all you want, but when you're standing there, it's pretty scary. You know what I mean? That rock gave away or whatever. So, or if you're out someplace and you see somebody punch somebody and they go down, and then they see them kick them, you're like, whoa! It makes you feel really sick to your stomach. And it's like you're kind of uncomfortable. Like, whoa, this is going to happen. I might watch someone kill somebody right now. I don't know if I want to see this. I wanted to kind of capture that with my film. The killer, has a face. Our tagline is the scariest monsters are the humankind, because I wanted it to feel this isn't like a John Wick. This isn't like one of those horror movies where a,
Right.
a killer stabs you and you're crawling away for half the movie, and you're gonna end up fighting back and bleed, like you're bleeding and you're damaged. Like this is kind of real. Like you get stabbed or shot, you might die. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to do something that felt real to me. So like when I did it, I wanted it to feel like a situation that you could be in. A lot of the movie takes place during the day, which I like. I'm not hiding things in the dark. I'm not jump scaring people, and that's what I'm getting my thrills off of. It is an indie film, so it flows like an indie film. It looks really good. We spent time making it look really well with good cameras and stuff like that. But we had tons of restrictions, so I really wanted to focus on. I've had people watch it early on and said it felt disturbing at times, and I like that because um, I feel like if anybody was in some of these situations, it's a pretty messed up, disturbing thing to probably see some of the stuff that would happen in a real life horror situation. So I wanted to write it to feel like you could be there. This could really happen. And the truth is, the scariest monsters are the humankind. I mean, you don't know what someone's thinking. I'm going to tell you the story. I don't know if I can't remember this happened to someone that I knew that lived in Florida, but some guy was standing in a grocery store shopping, and there was a guy standing on the other side of the aisle shopping. The dude on the other side of the aisle turned around. They didn't know each other, never ran into each other, same town, but just didn't know each other. Guy pulls a knife out, stabs the guy in the neck for no reason, kills him, like just for no reason.
Wow.
The guy dies. It's like really happened. This is a story, and for some reason, stories like that just stick with me. I'm like, what the? And the guy got arrested and all this shit. People are like, they saw the cameras. They didn't know each other. The guy just like turned around and stabbed someone in the grocery store for no reason, just watch him die. We don't know. And when Melissa came up with the tagline, "The scariest message of the humankind," I think of stuff like that. I think that is such a messed up, weird, random thing that could just happen. I mean, it happened. That's a real story. And so when I made this horror movie, I wanted it to feel like that feeling when you said, "Oh my god!" Like that's how I wanted it to feel. Like this could just happen, and it's messed up, and there is no explanation. It's just what the fuck. And so I wanted it to have that feeling. You know what I mean? Like just something that there is no explanation for. It's just messed up.
Man, I don't know how I'm gonna wait till Halloween. It sounds like you made this movie specifically for me. You're checking
Well,
off all the boxes I was hoping to hear. That sounds awesome.
well, it's an
Um,
indie film, so just keep in mind it looks really good, and I think we hit some really good marks in some of the spots, but it has an odd flow, and I like that about it. I
yeah,
like that.
I
I
like
like that.
that too. I think it goes back to that unknown factor. You feel like you don't know what you're going to expect next. It's that kind of asymmetrical flow. I know from the horror games I've been playing lately, kind of in the indie sector, that's been kind of the target people have been going after, getting that asymmetrical feeling where as you're going through it the whole time, you don't really know what's going to happen next. And it's funny you told that story about the grocery store. So I never said this on my channel or anything, but I used to do a fast food job, and I was taking orders outside one day, and it wasn't in the best area, but it's kind of similar to your grocery store story. So a car pulled up with tinted windows, and they rolled the window down, and it was this younger girl, and she had a stack of cash in her hand, like a huge stack of money, and was ordering. And I noticed while she was talking to me that her boyfriend or whatever guy was in the passenger seat had a handgun, and he was pointing it at me in his lap and had his finger on the trigger and just making eye contact with me the whole time. And he ordered and lifted it up and was pointing it at me the whole time. And then they paid and they left. And
Yeah,
that
so weird.
was, yeah, it was the weirdest moment. It was like super surreal. I wasn't even really scared in the moment. I wasn't even going to say anything to anybody until the cashier that was working the window ran outside and was like, this guy just pulled up and pointed a gun at me. And I was like, oh, yeah, he did the same thing to me. And it's
Yeah,
kind of the same thing you're saying. Like, you can just be going about your day doing the most, calm thing in the world. You can be in a crowded grocery store in a line full of cars with your coworkers, and no one can really stop anybody from doing anything. And I think that that's a big element of horror that a lot of people haven't tried to tackle in movies. So I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, and I mean that stuff's scary to me. Like that, just that unknown. You don't know. I mean, you're hanging out with somebody, and someone's standing beside you. What's going to make them snap? Is it going to be a smell? Is it going to be a mood? Did they have too much caffeine? I mean, are they on drugs? Like you just don't know. You don't know what's going to make them. It's going to fry that circuit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could have said we were out of ketchup and it would have been over right there.
Yeah. So I don't. That's what I wanted to capture. I wanted to capture that. Sometimes those real moments aren't as fantastic as they are in movies.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it, and so, but it's way more impactful. I think if you get it, if you're not so overstimulated with a Hollywood movie and the way storytelling is like that, I think if you can follow that, those moments, I think are terrifying. I think they're messed up.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. So that actually leads into another question I got, which you might have already answered. So, one of the viewers asked, with so many horror movies existing, how do you keep elements of the movie exciting, engaging, and surprising when the industry is kind of a little oversaturated at the moment with so many of the same similar movies coming out?
Well, I'm in a band too. So I'm in a professional band. I tour, do all this stuff. And one thing I do when I write for my band, I pretty much stop listening to music in that genre. I just like listen to other things. I'll listen to 80. I'm in a metal band, so I listen to 80s. I listen to anything but what I'm writing because I don't want to like somehow influence what I'm writing. And if I do accidentally, I'm pulling it for it's more of a nod, an accidental nod than like trying to kind of say let's do what everybody else is doing. So writing a horror movie, I don't typically gravitate towards horror movies. Like I love horror elements. Like when like I'm sick of like seeing like the human whose like limbs are bent backwards or heads turned backwards and they crawl across the floor really weird or they're hiding in the corner. I'm not into that stuff, man. Like that stuff doesn't scare me. Like I've been saying for years, if I saw Freddy Krueger or Jason out in a cornfield, I would way rather take my chances with them than I would a little tiny white alien who's just standing there and just peeks his head out. I'd be like, "Oh shit!" I would probably faint. I might even faint. I don't know.
Yeah, me and you
I'm not
both.
a wimp, but like that for whatever reason, because it's the unknown. I know what Freddy's going to do. I know what Jason's going to do. I know what these guys are going to do. But like, it's that skittish person standing in the elevator behind you, right? Like, and like got his hands in his pocket and he's eyeing you and he's eyeing your girl and you don't know what's going on. Like, that's terrifying to me. I'm like, is he going to pull a knife out? Am I going to be quick enough to dodge it? Is he going to cut my arm? Like, weird things like that. So when I wrote this, and when I developed it with my friend, she had some, which was cool. Melissa had some really great different angles from a different perspective, from being a woman and stuff. So she like her fears were different than my fears, and things that we did. So we kind of mingled about with that idea, and I just wanted it to be. I just didn't want it to be supernatural. I just didn't want it to be like something where it's this unstoppable, like demonic thing possessed by some. This is just like an unpredictable dude. Um, uh, who isn't, it's not making a lot of sense, and like it almost feels like schizophrenia or some sort of mental illness. You know what I mean? And like, but at the same time, like as it plays out, like I said, it's got an odd flow, and that's what I like about it. Like I love being able to have control. I didn't have to make a Hollywood movie and make sure, well, it has to have this, it has to do this, and it has to flow this way. Like, it kind of has some weird moments, and it twists at weird times, and it doesn't give you the same rhythm. I think that in itself adds a weird scariness to it. You know what I mean? And so, like, to be able to do that, I think it already. I'm not relying on jump scares. I'm not relying on the dark demon in the corner. But I filmed it all in the daylight. Everything is in the daylight. There's a couple. I think there's a few scenes that are at nighttime, but most of it's in the daylight. You see everything. It's just it's more, instead of being this fantastic situation where you're like, well, I would never drive up there at night. Are you kidding me? It's terrifying. Like, yeah, of course I wouldn't either. You know what I mean? But I would go up to the mountain during the day for a hike with my kids and my wife. You know what I mean? I would go up there and maybe camp the night because, why not? Everybody else does it. It's so there's things that you would do, and I wanted to try to bite off of that stuff. I didn't want to do the key that the car didn't start. I didn't want to do like those things that you just see over and over and over again. I didn't want to do a dude in a mask and you can't see his face. I mean, that's obviously scary, but imagine looking at a person and then they're looking you in the eyes and you see their eyes. And if that person can pull it off, that's scary. And if you see those crazy eyes that you've seen on the street, you're gonna be like, dude, that dude is scary. And so to me,
Yeah, yeah.
that I wanted it to feel more grounded like that. Like walking in a strange city and you got that guy you walked by earlier and now it's been 4 hours later and like he's like staring at you weird, his shirt's off, he maybe he's just in rough shape, like he hasn't showered in a while, maybe he's suffering from some mental illness, and he's got a stick in his hand, he's walking behind you, you're like, what's up with this dude? You know what I mean? So I wanted to have that feel, that like that unpredictable crazy guy who's been lingering there forever, but maybe he's gonna hit me tonight with that thing. Maybe he's gonna hit me with that stick, or maybe he did kill somebody. Maybe he's gonna kill me. I don't know. I like that better. So I tried not to like be influenced by what is coming out. I tried to just make it my own in an independent kind of indie film kind of way.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes total sense. I love horror like that where you watch it and you're thinking during it, this could happen to me tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's a really cool element to try and capture. So this one's kind of a funny question. I had more I wanted to say to that and I forgot because I just remembered this was a question. So someone really wanted to know, and you've mentioned a few times the differences between, an indie film and a Hollywood movie. How much green screen is in your movie or a typical indie movie? I'm assuming not much, right?
No, so one of the first steps for me when I write, for example, this movie, I have done union projects. I did a pilot for a TV show, which is like a sci-fi kind of like thriller, and I this is straight indie. So it was right off of COVID, right after COVID, and everything was being lifted. And me and my crew, we wanted to film something, and my DP said, "Hey, keep it simple. I'm like, okay, well, what are you thinking? He's like, just do a horror movie. Write a horror movie. My stuff always kind of my sci-fi stuff always has like a horror element. It has this like kind of gritty kind of thing going on somewhere in between like a Quentin Tarantino and like I don't know, like sci-fi, dark sci-fi, like a Fringe or something, you know. And so everything I write, but I have this horror element, like my aliens and my creatures and all stuff always have some sort of like, well, the way I write, it would need a lot of like, you know, awesome special effects, CGI, green screen, whatever, but I love the film practically. So when we filmed this, I literally made everything myself. Any kill, any body, any limb, I would like go on Amazon. I'd find a generic hand from like Spirit Halloween, but then I would take it apart. I'd pull all the stuffing out. I'd cut it. I'd burn it. I'd make it look like I'd repaint it. I'd put fake fingernails on it. So they already had the mold. I needed to save money, so I would just repurpose it and just make it look better. And I would just do a lot of stuff like that. You know, if I needed like muscle exposed, I would look online, I'd figure out the anatomy, and I'm an artist, so I'd mold it out of clay, I'd carve it, and then I'd paint it, and then I'd set it there. And so what I did is when I wrote it, the script, I thought, okay, we don't have a jib crane, we don't have a drone, we don't have like any kind of, we had a drone. I bought a drone for this, but we didn't have like the right drone. We didn't have a steady cam. We didn't have a gimbal. We didn't have anything. So everything I wrote, I was constantly thinking, how can I shoot that with what we have and keeping it on budget? So everything I wrote, I was just aware of my resources. So I kept like, okay, I would tweak for that, pay attention to that. We don't have a green screen. We don't have special effects. So I would like write a really cool scene. I'd say, okay, how can I make that still killer and cool, but like without the special effects? So that's what I did. I had to be a couple steps ahead and make sure that I'm writing to meet, you know, my materials. And I did have a guy who did some special effects. He actually was in the Ukraine in Kiev when Russia was attacking. And so I used him before 5 years ago. And so we did the scene where one of the props broke in two, but it was the only one I had. And I told the dude, hey, when you do this and you do the scene, don't let the axe stick in it. Pull it out and be careful. Yeah, twisting it out. We'll fake it in filming. He rips it out, rips the piece off the body. I'm like, oh my God. And blood's going everywhere. So I had to run it back and go, keep it rolling. And I put it back, but you could see where it was funny. So it's the only scene where I had this guy blend the flesh back, you know, through digital. So it looked real still. And it was really minor, and it was just to hide a scene. But everything else that you see is all practical effects, like real blood, like, you know, aside from putting some extra Foley in there for a crunching of a bone or like blood splatter. When you do see something, they're all props, practical props that I made.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's the answer I was expecting. I didn't think you had a whole studio with 10 green screens. uh yeah,
No,
I
no.
totally get that though. I know with the videos I make, you know, you have an idea in your head, but you have to stay grounded and think, okay, you know, these are the resources I have. This is what I can actually do. How do I take that and still make, you know, the best product I can or the best looking, you know, art I can? So you mentioned you had the guy who was in Kiev during the war. So this is a pet peeve I have. This isn't a question on the list. So as a biomedical engineer, I've done a lot with you know, human bodies, like testing and things like that. So
Yeah,
the gore in movies bugs me because a lot of it sucks, to be honest.
yeah, yeah.
And it kind of really takes me out of the movie because I'm like, okay, you know, I've seen that in a lab before. That's not what that's supposed to look like. Like, okay. So did you have anyone on your team or did anyone like that kind of help you be like, you know, this is how things are supposed to look instead of, you know, a guy's arm chops off and there's 10 gallons of blood that squirt all over the wall or something?
No, so funny you say that because one of the guys like, "We need blood, we need blood squirt." And I'm like, you know, dude, you only have so much blood in your body, and I mean, I'm not a doctor or a scientist or that, but I'm kind of realistic. I saw a guy get hit by at a carnival once, and he got his arm almost cut off completely.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, dude, when it got cut, it cut so quick. I looked over at him, and it was like it looked like you were cutting like a piece of fish or something like that. I remember like right in his armpit, like it didn't bleed at first. It was like I
Yeah.
looked over there and it bled. I mean, there was a lot of blood. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like what you would think. It wasn't squirting. Like it wasn't like there wasn't gallons of blood in the ground. It was literally just kind of all over him and bleeding in the ground, some drips here and there. They grabbed the hockey, they stitched it back up, whatever. And it was a pretty big gash. It almost got his arm up. He dodged it. But what I did was like, for example, I I had a scene where someone gets a limb ripped off, and I thought, well, I don't want to be like Commando, where he chops a guy's arm off. You see the bone perfectly round, you see the muscle perfectly round, and nothing snapping back. You know, all that pressure just isn't there. So what I did was, I looked up like farm accidents and stuff where someone like got their arm stuck in a machine. And then I would look up real pictures of stuff like that, and I'd say, okay, so it's kind of chopped here. There's a cut there, some little teeny holes. It almost looked like bubbly to me. It almost didn't even look like what I thought it was going to look like. It was so churned up, like almost like hamburger. You know what I mean? And like little shards of steak. So I started using like I didn't go online and look up how do people do this or do people use ballistics gel or what do they do. I just said as an artist, I said, well, what can I do to make it look right? Because I don't need it to flex. I don't need it to. I just need it to look right. It doesn't need to feel right. It doesn't need to like move right because it's a prop. I just needed to look right for that quick 1 second shot. So I would take spray foam, and spray foam sometimes naturally, if you pop it and do certain things, it kind of starts to look shredded. And I would take sharp knives and I would make cuts in it and stuff, and then I'd paint it, and then I'd add the blood and I'd airbrush it, and I'd start to make it. I had like a skeleton I bought in pieces for like a class, you know, in the college, something like that, and so I'd take the bones I needed, I'd pop them in there, then I'd cut them or do whatever I had to do. I made it look like sometimes I'd spray foam on it because you know bones aren't just going to be bones. Sometimes there's going to be like meat and stuff stuck to it. You know,
Right.
like so
Right.
I would spray the spray foam, then I'd scrape it off, and it'd be bits stuck to it. Then I would paint it, and then I just did like little things, like little tricks like that, so it felt a little more. And it felt a little more real. It's still enhanced because I'm making a movie, and some real shit is boring. Like I, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
some
totally.
some
Totally get that. Yeah.
but like when I had a this one this was a scene where this guy his face is exposed, you know what I mean, and so I made sure I put all the muscles in there, the proper muscles around the cheeks and stuff, and around the mouth and under the nose and stuff, and
You see, that's
I love.
dedication to the craft right there. That's what I like to hear.
Well, I was just sitting there at night doing nothing, and I can't do nothing, so I just started like carving it, making the muscle, and even at that point, if that would have happened, it probably would have been tore off, and it would have been hanging differently. But like for the sake of making it cool and gross and weird, I think
Yeah,
we just
yeah,
need to
it's a
do that. But I think,
balance. It's a balance, yeah.
but I just went online. I look up medical books. I know nurses and stuff, and I would just say, "Hey, does this look real?" Like, "Oh my god, that's gross." Like, does it look real? Like, don't have that. I have it at my tattoo shop, just sitting there on the counter. Like, get that off your counter. It's gross. You're gonna scare a kid. I'm like, so it looks kind of real. Like, yeah, I'm like, good. Okay, cool. So just
That's
I
awesome.
just yeah. So
Okay, yeah. No, that good answer. That's what I like to hear. Yeah, that's a process I feel like the big Hollywood movie should be taking. So I'm definitely glad to hear that. So this was a big one that got asked a few times, and I'm interested to hear your answer because you said you like to kind of drown out similar content when you're creating. So who are some of your biggest inspirations, whether it's directors or certain movies you saw growing up or anything like that?
I mean, the truth is, when it comes to like filming in general, I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I love sci-fi. I love Chronicles of Riddick. I love all that stuff. But when it comes to the horror realm, I mean, I'm 48. I grew up, in the 80s and 90s with Freddy Krueger, Jason, all that stuff. But I absolutely love um, the Evil Dead series. I love the
Oh, me
campiness of it.
too.
I love the low budget. I love Bruce Campbell. I actually asked years and years and years ago before I was even really making movies. Me and a buddy of mine contacted Bruce Campbell and asked if he'd work on a movie with us. He said, "Save your hard-earned money, kids." We're like, "Shit," and like, so like I would love to bring him into something someday, just as a cameo, and I might even do it next time if things go well. But um, I love I love the comedy, action, campiness of Evil Dead, and like Army of Darkness and the Ash versus the Evil Dead series. I love all that type of stuff. I didn't watch the new Evil Dead, the newest one that came out, but I know a lot of people that did
Oh,
that loved Evil Dead too. And
yeah, I
the
loved it.
trailers I saw, I heard it was awesome. I've been so obsessed with like working on the film and doing stuff in my band. I just haven't spent a lot of time. I haven't. I went to the movies to see Deadpool recently, but I haven't been able to go to the movies in so long because I literally started my company and I'm trying to do everything that I'm doing with Severance Mountain is through my company, Ignorant Tourist Productions. So like I financed the movie and I did it with just my savings. I didn't take any loans out. It's super, super, super low budget, and by Hollywood standards, I don't even think they would even look at it as a budget. But that was part of the trick was to like, I thought about movies like Evil Dead. I thought about these movies and I think, well, um, how can I do this with no money? How can I make something cool, like and not have to worry about that part? So I just use my artistic background and that my will to persevere to create stuff and just use my artistic eye. So anyway, that's off the subject, but yeah, I love the alien horror sci-fi horror type scary movie. So like anything like that, anything that's like anything I can't explain, I like because it's the unknown is terrifying to me.
Yeah, yeah, same here. Yeah, I love those Evil Dead movies. When you get a chance, you got to check out the new one. It was great. I saw it front row in the theater the day it came out, and it lived up to expectations. That's all I'll say, not to spoil you.
No,
uh,
nah, it looks good.
yeah, that's really cool too, though. That's what I heard before we had the phone call that you were self-funding everything. So originally, I thought he was reaching out about a paid advertisement, and then I looked at your trailer and the stuff you were doing, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! I'll totally do that for free." Because I get being a smaller kind of horror creator and trying to make stuff like that, and yeah, your stuff looks really cool. I'm really excited for this project. So I know you
That's
mentioned
cool. Thanks.
also, yeah, no problem, that you're 48. So I'm 24, so half that. And growing up,
Yeah.
I got a laptop, I think when I was maybe 7 or 8, and that was right when YouTube started. And I went on it and I was like, oh, I like the scary cartoon episodes that come out on Halloween. Let me look up some ghost stuff. And I terrified myself looking at all kinds of scary stuff on there you shouldn't be looking at when you're 7 and 8. And that really inspired me to kind of do what I'm doing today. So I'm interested because you were kind of the same age I was when YouTube kind of started taking off when I was on there. Did you ever watch any kind of horror series or scary videos, found footage stuff on there? Or did that kind of inspire you at all with making an indie film?
Um. Well, no. I mean, I've always loved. I love. My wife will show me some really bad music, and she's like, "Oh my god, this guy's rough." I'm like, "Oh my god, I love it." Like, I love obscure, weird, off, like just kind of natural stuff. I love like there's some really rough indie movies that I know they're rough, I know they're bad, I know they didn't have a budget, but I love that someone got to create it with nothing, and it's so like intriguing to me. Like, wow, this dude did nothing, but they made a movie. They made a movie. You know what I mean? And like I'm watching it right now, and yeah, it's bad, and yeah, the acting is bad, but that's all they had. They just did something with what they had. So my kids, I have triplets. They're 13 years old, and so they're into all these new spooky stories. And my daughter will be like, Dad, oh my God. And she'll watch these things and she's like, it's scary. She's like, I know it's fake, but I still like it. And she's like, it's not as good as your thing. And she'll say these things, but it kind of made me feel like I, I think some people in Hollywood and some people might be like, it's cheapening movies and like, people can do these things and doing this and doing that. And it's making like, people look at it feels more real than some of these big movies because it's so digital sometimes. It's so
Right,
like these big
right.
movies, it's like the blood splatter, like they'll actually physically show you someone get shredded to pieces. They show you these things, and it's all digitally recreated. And I'm like thinking to myself, dude, some of the scariest stuff is the stuff you don't see. Your brain can create that. Like if you know what's going to happen when someone sticks their hand in a blender, sometimes you don't need to see the hand in the blender. You just need to see the aftermath. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
totally
and
agree.
and so, like, for me, I think, like, and I say this a lot, I'm like, well, a lot of these kids are watching these YouTube shows where people are making them on their cell phones and some of it's really bad acting, but it's entertaining. And so I thought to myself, when I filmed this movie, when I wrote it, the same way I wrote with my equipment, I wrote with my actors. I said, okay, some of these people acted in high school. Some of them aren't actors; they're just a really cool personality. But I could see that they had potential, and if we had like years to train them, we could have trained them. So when I write my scripts, I'd ask them in advance, say, hey, listen, I really want to make a movie. I love who you are as a person, and I kind of can get into like somebody like I can kind of I could like mimic them. You know what I mean? I could like be like I could like if I was telling the story, I'd be like, oh, like Johnny, he talks like this. You know, I'm really good at kind of like feeling out someone's personality. So when I write, if I know I'm going to cast somebody, I try to write with their mannerisms in mind, the way they talk, the way they would answer. Like I kind of have them burned into my brain a little bit, and so where I see some of these YouTube videos and they're trying to act like someone they're not. I try to put someone in my movie and write for them so they don't even have to really act. They just have to like go through their normal emotions and just be able to pull it up at the right time.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
so it kind of to me like I thought, well, a lot of this audience, we're doing a lot of like advertising on YouTube. So a lot of the audience would be a lot of those kids potentially, a lot of these younger, like my kids' age and your age that grew up on this stuff. So to watch my movie, yeah, Hollywood might look at it and say it's an indie film. This could be better. That could be better. But to that generation of kids who grew up watching these like homemade kind of scary things, they might just look at it and enjoy it because there is a realness to it. With indie filmmaking, there's always a realness to it, and it has it's kind of similar to these YouTube videos. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
I I think I think I think there is an audience that would gravitate towards that because of this loose format, this not being produced, these non-actors pulling off these stories that still scare you, still freak you out. You still love watching them. You're addicted to them every day. I think that kind of is an extension of indie filmmaking. I mean, it is indie filmmaking. It's just in a reality-based kind of. I don't know. I don't even really understand it fully, but like I think there's a similarity there, and
Yeah,
I think you can
totally.
bridge that gap.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? As a consumer.
I think you'd actually be really interested in the history of the last couple of years of what's been going on. So when I grew up and I was 13, your kid's age, it was really shitty. To be straight up, the stuff people were putting out kind of sucked. It still scared me, because I was a kid, but it was like crappy Photoshop, CGI, a jump scare here and there. But the stuff in the last couple of years has been crazy. The things people are putting out. So there's a big thing called analog horror that's been going around, which is you get like kind of an old camcorder feel. It's kind of like a found footage thing. It's kind of spliced around. It's not really a fluid story, and it's been getting super popular. So the biggest indie film that came out was about the back rooms, and I'm sure your kids have probably heard of it. It's ridiculous right now, and it's essentially a space where people kind of fall into it, and it's like a never-ending empty space, an office or like a swimming pool area or whatever. But there's a creator called Kane Pixels, and he made in Blender with some free video editing software found footage film about a guy getting stuck there. And he put a VHS filter on it to kind of, mask that it looked kind of digitally created. And it got 400 million views in the last year and a half. And he got a movie
Amazing.
deal with Warner Brothers and A24 for it. So after that, people have been putting out all kinds of content like that. And you have kids as young as 17, 18 putting out these things that are doing better numbers than Hollywood movies. And I think it's really kind of opening up what you're talking about, where people really like that real feeling and like they can actually connect kind of with the art they're watching versus, okay, 700 people worked on this movie for 3 years. It had an $80 million budget and the entire thing's CGI.
Well,
So
you might as well be playing a video game at that point. You know what I mean?
exactly,
Like some of these things.
exactly. Yeah,
And if you're engaged in that idea,
yeah, totally, totally. Like I watched a series on live stream that my chat convinced me the other day. It was called The Boiled One, and it was supposed to be some found footage thing where you're watching a tape from a government agency that doesn't exist, and some TV series got hijacked on TV, and some creepy religious kind of symbolism guy showed up and had some message, and then people got paralyzed or something, and it caused some mass illness. And it was interesting because it's like, okay, the story's kind of basic, and it's made by someone who said they're only 17, and to get around that, they worked with what they had and kind of made there's no actors in it. It's it looks like some fire escape VHS showing you how to exit a building from the 90s. So yeah, it's really interesting kind of in the space right now with how many indie creators are with limited resources kind of popping up. So uh yeah, just another reason to be excited for your movie because I've been really into the indie stuff the last couple of years. I was sleeping on it before, so
Yeah, well, my son, my kids, my two boys, they I have two boys and a girl, and my son's been into Five Nights at Freddy's since he's been like 4 years old. Like
mm.
I never even heard of it, and somehow he discovered it by his cousin, and he's been like Springtrap and all these characters. I make him all of his costumes. Now he makes his own costumes,
Oh,
and
cool.
they make these shorts, and he actually just made a video like that where he had the filter on there. He's walking down the hallway and like he's like jump scaring, and he does all the he's been into this stuff. So everything you're saying, I'm sure if I mentioned these names to them, they would know. But that's kind of my inspiration. I talk to them about stuff. I show them stuff, and like this is really cool. This is really cool. And my son, he watches all this stuff. He can't watch the kill scenes. He covers his eyes. I'm like, what are you doing? You love Chucky? You love this? He's like, I just can't watch it. I'm like, so to me, I feel like okay, my lawyer's like, he's like, he loves them doing indie film. I have no desire to go to Hollywood. Like I'm hoping that I can make enough money from this to do another indie film. And it's not about getting rich. It's about being able to make enough to be able to hire everybody, all my artists, all these people that work with me, because we are a team. And I know I'm talking a lot about myself and all this stuff because I do a lot of the stuff. I do the editing, I write the music for it, I do the Foley for it, and then I hire a studio to help me mix it in 5.1. I send it off to my guy to do color correction, but a lot of the stuff I do, and I finance it. But when I say finance it, it sounds like we're talking huge numbers, but it's not. It's like I just watch what my kids are into. I pay attention to what's happening. I know where my core is at, and I just want to write things that are. I think those things online, like you're saying, they have an odd flow to them, and sometimes I don't understand it, but it's like it still keeps me hooked, and it's those things and that idea. That's why that's how I wanted my movie to be. I wanted to have that like it doesn't flow like the average story that it kind of doesn't give you these like okay, we need 50% happy, we need 50% bad. It doesn't give you that. It doesn't give you a happy ending necessarily. It's just a story, and that's what I wanted to capture. And being independent and doing it myself, rather doing it with my team and the people that I work with, we have say. And if I'm the guy on top that has final say, I'm in it for the fucking indie. You know what I mean? I'm in it for what it is. So I get to like, I get to say, well, no, we don't want her to live. No, we don't want it to have a happy ending. No, I don't care about the love scene there. No, there doesn't need to be. You know what I mean? I can make these crazy decisions that might not fit in Hollywood, and by all standards, this might be a flop. But because I owe nobody anything, if this does even a portion of what I'm hoping it can do, it will be enough to do it again. And that's ultimately what I want out of this, for us to be able to make more movies like this and to find our audience.
Yeah, I completely relate to that with, the content I've been making the last little over half a year. It's like, obviously, it'd be cool to make a bunch of money or whatever, but it's really just enough to keep it going and kind of keep a community and just being able to share, your art with people and be like, I really enjoy these concepts, sci-fi, aliens, horror, but, now I'm in a place where I can share it with other people. And yeah, I really like that vibe, and I think the people that watch my stuff are definitely going to like that vibe too. So you'll at least have a couple viewers.
No, it's cool. It's cool to talk about, and I talk to I talk to people all the time about this stuff who aren't into art and music and don't get it. So to talk to people, that get it is awesome. I don't care how big that number is. You know what I mean? I just it's important. It's important to be an artist, and it's important to have control over what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. Yeah, that was my entire list of questions I had though. There were some other dumb ones, but they were a little too dumb. I didn't write them down. But
No, that's okay.
yeah, that was really good. I'm really excited for this movie. So yeah, I can't wait for Halloween. It's gonna be a long 2.5 months.
Well, it actually comes out September 13th. I said Halloween, thinking
Oh,
the Halloween
okay.
season. I said that it's supposed to be the Halloween season because I think like it's Christmas time, it's Halloween time, and people are like, "So it's coming out on Halloween." I'm like, "No," and I've already made a massive push, independent release mistake. Okay, I'm learning my lesson.
I totally get
So
it. Yeah, I totally get it.
so I said Halloween, but it's actually September 13th. Like I figured Spirit Halloween opens September 1st, or maybe it's August 1st. But it's during the time when you're starting to prep. I figured 6 weeks out. It's a Friday the 13th. It actually comes out September 13th, Friday the 13th on Amazon, iTunes, Apple TV, Google Play, and it'll be ready for purchase and rentals in English speaking territories on all those platforms.
Awesome.
Um,
All right. Yeah, I can wait a month
and
and a half a lot easier than all the way to October 31st. So I'm happy to hear that.
yeah, I'm gonna put out a new ad, and it's gonna all of our promos and photos and stuff advertises that way and stuff. But yeah, another thing too, if you want to add this into the mix, is we're trying to do the hashtag I survived Severance Mountain. A lot of the merch that we have, it's I survived Severance Mountain, and that's kind of our thing. The scariest monsters are the humankind. So if there's something that you want, or someone shows interest and stuff, we are giving away some merch right now leading up to the movie, and stickers and some oddball things. So if you want something, man, just reach out to Severance Mountain and stuff, and we'll send you a package. And thanks for hooking us up with this interview and stuff. And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just
that'd
want to
be
get the word
awesome.
out there. So just let me know some sizes and stuff, and if anybody, if they beg me enough, I'm sure I'll send them something.